Okay, so we all will have to speak a little slower. And if there is any YouTube opens, please close that. And Arif Saab is with us via WhatsApp. So it's a multi-phase technology here today. And we are trying to have him on board with us. So I am, my apologies to the audience that we had to take this break and sort the issue of sound that was playing at the background for whatever reasons. Um, Rahman Saab, if you were talking about how cholera had spread and how
Yes,
the
yes, I was talking about that when the cholera was spread in Lahore, what they did was that they encircled the city with the policemen and constructed two hospitals, one at Kana and the other at Barki. And they checked each and every person and before entering into the city, and if there was any problem, any patient, they were treated over there. Now, after independence, we have seen that the Lahore expanded in all directions. The major commercial markets and administrative centers remained over there, and they keep on, you see, expanding. But the population were expanding in the south. We didn't find any kind of major commercial development or administrative sector growing towards Lahore. So there was not any kind of policy at the city level in order to distribute the infrastructure in all parts of the city so that people will not have to come to the major urban center. So this particular problem, you see, the traffic increased too much in the urban areas, and therefore the government decided to construct an overhead and orange line. This was the worst decision. This decision transformed the city from a garden city into a concrete city. I mean, we and later on the commercialization policies transformed the major roads into the commercial markets. And major problem was that no green space was left either in front of the buildings or at the back of the buildings. So the densities increased too much. Now look at the example in case of Main Boulevard, multi-story buildings were constructed over there without improving the infrastructure, water supply, sanitation, and other things. And there was no parking spaces as well. Now, for example, most of the major shopping centers are being built over there. The recent example is Grand Square Mall, which is being constructed, which is under construction. That is located at the junction of Main Boulevard and Jami Shirin Road. So this is in front of Center Point. There is not much temporary kind of parking in front of that, and ultimately we will find in future that this will be a big problem which we are going to create over there at that particular junction. Now we have failed to improve our bylaws, improve our you see designs, looking into the environmental conditions. We
sir, if
haven't
I may take
improved.
the cue from here,
G.
if I may take the cue from here on your
Okay.
point that we have failed to introduce new bylaws which address the situations. And if we move a little to the south of the country, Karachi, and if I may include Arif Saab also, because we were talking about densification, and I believe he also has much to share on Karachi's densification. Arif Saab, I had opened up with a stance that in the today's new normal will eventually be. We are trying as professionals, as societies and communities to grapple and understand and reflect on the future that is to unfold itself. I my question was, do you think the profession at some time had derailed itself? Arif, so I don't know whether you heard my question. Can I? Should I repeat? Okay, Arif Saab, my apologies to the audience. I may be saying this for the third time, that in today's time when we are talking about the new normal and are trying to understand whatever the actual normal would be in the coming days to come, and we as societies and communities, as professionals, as individuals, try to grapple the situation that is in front of us. I mean, the future is right with us. Apart from the shock syndrome that we are going through, and trying and the forced confinement that we are in, of the disease, of the mental illnesses, is, do you think at in time did the profession derail itself?
I don't know whether the profession derailed itself, but I certainly think that the profession did not deal with the issues that had produced the state of affairs that would happen. The issue of equity. Profession certainly did not deal with this issue. On the contrary, much of its work reduced inequity and supported policies, various implementation. So I think the profession certainly did not fulfill its role. You can say that it's also about a firm class biases in the profession. I really had a very strong anti-poor in much of what it did. Even in recent times, it has produced a remarkable amount of gentrification of the city center and transfer to further go. So I think that's one. Academia, apart from a few instances, military had also pursued a teaching methodology that is far removed from the reality of past. He is also the given work for that matter. So, for God is real. You have a lack of sympathy. I won't say sympathy, no, not just sympathy, but a lack of understanding of where we should be, how to do that. Much of what has been produced as sort of low-cost housing, neighborhood improvement, etc. The example, except for one of the projects, and where it does work, those projects have not really become teaching example of good project was drawn from them. So I think the profession has been the same. You want me to elaborate, or should I leave it there?
Sir, I will take the question towards Mansoor Ahmed, because in the last 2-3 decades there has been an immense development of infrastructure and a concretization that we see in the northern areas. What do you have to say, Mansoor?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
The human resource sustainability, especially in the post-COVID 19 scenario. Our developmental model at urban level is mostly it's like project based, and it's not planning based. And the second major flaw with our developmental model is that we say that public is the main stakeholder, but our developmental development is not public centered. So, like we see in like the mega project that we are having here in Peshawar is the BRT project. I mean, the whole city is bisected into two parts, and this was thought like of an open heart surgery of the city of the 2500-year old living city, and yet no every individual is affected with it, and yet no public opinion was entertained in that. So the result is that like people does not own such development, and if public ownership is not there, then I mean sustainability lose its real meaning and its real sense. And for this matter, what we have been working since 20 years with the government, with the various agencies and the various organizations as an IP, we have come to a 3 point conclusions that I put it this way, that if we want to have a sustainable city, a resilient city with its well-informed citizens, then we have to have like we have to address the trust deficit between the public and the government. And for that matter, all of the public sector projects or communal buildings or spaces have to have 3 points as a policy. Number one is uh, planning with public consultation, that you take public on board for every such project. And second is legislation for public facilitation, that you take public into confidence that whatever legislation is, it is for the facilitation of the public, not to torture them or just to restrict them or just sort of the type of impression that we public take from the government projects. And third one is the implementation with public participation. So this is the model where public and government become partners in its implementation. So if we can go with such lines, we can expect a more sustainable development, more inclusivity, and more ownership towards sustainability. So this is something that is like our reading from this region of of the country.
Arif Sab, you wanted to add something to that?
Yes, I quite agree that this should be the vision and this should be how things are done. And you have some projects, like for example, the work we did with the Rangi project on the Urban Resource Center, where we have tried to follow this process. It's a long process. We were to have an informed public also for this process. But the point has been that these become projects. And even when they are translated into policy, as a policy, we, they remain as projects. The project does not expand, becomes a drop in this vast ocean of turmoil. For example, I mean, you need better health, you need better education, you need better sanitation, these are very essential for it. Well, about 78% of Pakistani cities, 78% of the volume of trade in Pakistani city.
is not treated. This is of the cities. If you put the whole country into it, it goes into the 90s. And where it is not treated, it is basically not treated at the micro level, where there is an aspect of it. You can talk about education and better health without sanitation and that. So I think that's extremely important. Then there are other things that we have realized over time, and now this present virus has enforced that at the neighborhood level and at the house level we need better ventilation, we need better light, we need more use. Even models for this exist in Pakistan. Such these models have really not expanded. On the contrary, I would say that in the last 15 years, certain of these models used before has not multiplied, and so to such extent, the models have much less of the population than what they used to have. So I think this is an important lesson. Also, I think there's been a lot of speculation of a new city as a result of new planning as a result of the post-COVID-19 period. Well, let me say that these cities are not going away. These cities are here to stay. And even if they expand, it will stand at a much slower rate than the expansion that creates mountains at the French. So we are here, we are left with these cities. So what we must think of now is to improve these cities, to improve the neighborhood. So begin with, and now we have the decision that should be taken. At least, let's say, by working like this. And that there should be no elections without
Arif sir,
neither of businesses and no opponents.
I will move to Abdul Rehman because he has of the development of Lahore, over so many decades, and has actually working on on a manuscript on that. So, and he had some pertinent viewpoints on the current situation of the city that Lahore is. Abdul Rahman.
The- I mean, uh, if we look at city and history of the city, we will find four major problems. The first is that as a nation, we are, we wake up very late in making proposal and implementation in solving any problem. For example, as I gave you the example of ring road that was originally proposed in 1945 and it was implemented after 75 years, right? So you can see that when the original idea was, brought, plans were prepared and when we implemented that. So this is the first problem that we don't, wake up early to solve the problem. The second is, as Mansoor has mentioned, that there is not any direct contact between the government and the public in terms of what is going on, what are being thought, and how the problem is being solved. The third is any connection or collective kind of effort from the architects in order to solve the problems of the cities. Now, it's the duty of the architect that they aware the government well in time that this is the issue which is being faced, or this is the problem which can come up in the future, near future. So please do that. And we are failed in this term as a collective, as an institution, a group of architects in solving the problem. We haven't made any kind of solution. And we haven't made any kind of suggestions in terms of solving the problems. So these are the, I mean, major issues.
What about the orange line that is looming in front of Lahore?
No, the orange line, if we accept that reality, that is extremely important to solve the problem of major traffic problem in Lahore. For example, I know that when the Daewoo bus started, people coming from defense towards the mall area, even the teachers of the National College of Arts, they used to take that particular bus. And this public is extremely important in order to solve the problem of the traffic. We have too many rickshaws, we have too many motorcycles. I mean, these kind of things are, and it should be linked. They use the orange line coming from south towards north. I mean, this mass transit will be a good solution to solve the problem. Otherwise, you see these small wagons and unhealthy conditions, overcrowding in these wagons and small buses. They are already creating a problem. So it is important that this bus, the metro train, orange train must be, I mean, it's almost complete, but I don't know what is the reason why it is not being operated. So this is one problem which can solve. The other is that we will have to make the now decisions that we will have to shift the major commercial markets into the suburban areas. I mean, these markets are not serving the city, they are serving the regions. And those markets which are serving the region has no reason to stay in the city in the urban areas. They can go on somewhere on the motorway, on some kind of, you see, railway line somewhere. These are again lot of trucks coming in to the city and agglomeration. And with the corona, we have seen that there was relatively less pollution in Lahore, and the birds came back to Lahore, and now we will have to see that how we will have to solve these problem. And another reason is that there are more densities in certain part of the areas, and we haven't done any kind of plantation. For example, one of the project could be done is along the river Ravi. There should be botanical parks. There should be, I mean, urban forestry projects. There could be some other kind of landscape project along that, so that the areas which is the west of Lahore can get benefit from these plantations, because there is not a
Okay,
single major garden in that particular area. Yes.
so I would now like to move to Mansoor because Mansoor, I believe, has actually worked on a project for the densification and for the relieving of communal spaces. And we would like to hear his viewpoints on that. Mansoor, on to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. The points made here at urban level, at a macro scale, are quite valid. But I mean, since 20 years, we are working as a professional. I'm working with the various government departments. Unfortunately, what we are talking, it make a lot of sense to us and to the public and the departments who are concerned. But we architects and planners are not anywhere in the decision making position and policy making position and implementation position in the government. So, I mean, because of that, all these ideas are just like wish lists and dreams, and we cannot pursue them. I mean, Arif Hasan Saab is like a sort of an encyclopedia. If I mean, his only his thoughts and ideas, and the urban resource center is just properly, I mean, listened and taken in letter and spirit, the Karachi would have been like an all different city altogether. So the same is here. So what I feel is that these we have to go to the grassroots level. I mean, we have to work on two fronts, rather three fronts, I'll say. Academically, we shall prepare our young lot for all these challenges, and we have to educate them on these lines that we faced and we couldn't deliver, the way Arif Hasan Saab has put it. And the challenges at from small to from neighborhood to the urban level. So I'll come to the Orangi pilot project, as Sir Arif Hasan Saab has discussed, and he said that it's like a drop in the ocean. But I mean, that drop is very precious. When we talk about the physical infrastructure, so I'll use the term that equally important with for the sustainability of any community at any scale is the social infrastructure. I mean, public is equally important, and we normally do focus and work on the physical infrastructure, but we ignore the social infrastructure. So for that matter, I mean, if we can empower our public and motivate them, and I mean, provide social education for them, here comes the role of the architect, because at urban scale, normally planners do set the canvas, because land use is just like the fate of a city. It has to go that way, and people have to come and they have to play their role. And I mean, it can change its shape, but it has to be within those parameters, the land use that is defined. And unfortunately, that is not there. So I feel that we shall be looking for an integrated developmental model, because for the ADA, I mean, the architecture and the design and the artist team, they have to be there in the planning process right from the start. And unfortunately, we do not have any such even consideration that in our urban planning we do have the designers input. I mean, the artist input, it's not there. Even the professionals are just, I mean, say ignores. Things are just moving bureaucratically. So, in my opinion, we have to go to the grassroots level, and the neighborhood is the major area where we can deliver. Like Madam Yasmin Larry is doing a fabulous job, and we have some good examples. And Aga Khan, I mean, in Hunza, they are doing a lot of work. They have set some standards, bylaws are there, sanitation is there, and a lot of things are just, I mean, just in front of us. So in our capacities, if as an IAP, as an PKP, as an academic institutions, as an elders and as an I mean youngsters, what we can do is we can just focus our neighborhood. And I would like to share one such example, because I believe that politically architects are social activists. Our very practice and our education is almost on those lines. Pardon?
We are actually
Pardon?
losing you, Mansoor. I don't know whether you can hear me. Yes, now you're back.
Yeah,
You were
I
saying
can hear
something.
you. Yeah, so politically speaking, we architects
Okay,
are
we lost
social
you somewhere.
activists. Okay, so politically speaking, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, politically speaking, we architects are social activists by our training and by our nature of the profession. So what I see is our architecture somehow misses the humanitarian aspect of the community, of the neighborhood. I mean, we are just creating icons and good buildings and with the inspirations. But with the COVID-19, we have some examples that like sports stadiums and other large infrastructure was converted to hospitals. So at the community neighborhood level, what I feel is that the community spaces like the mosque and community halls, their design need to be reconsidered, and we have to work on the community mobilization and social training and social activism. Like for example, we are working on a masjid project, and no, we have to look at the masjid project not simply for worshipping. It has to serve as a food security point. It has to serve as a health security point. It has to serve as a civil defense point, and it has to serve as a financial welfare point. And for that, we can engage youth. So I am looking at the architecture of the new normal that you can say is that we also cater to the humanitarian aspect of the society of the community. So if we can have a single small neighborhood
Okay, that's
with
a
such
very
engagements.
so that's a very interesting example that you have shared with us, and more so in the current times. And I, although I had it in my notes, but there is this question that is being asked from the audience, which is very relevant, and it is a question that is actually being asked by a lot of them. So they are asking all of you, and I will go step by step. They're asking all of you panelists, our esteemed panelists today, how do you foresee the coming shape, face of the city post COVID or in COVID or in the current times? Arisa, any thoughts on that?
Look, what I don't think what all we have been discussing actually, apart from projects, what we have really been discussing is a wish list, which is backed by some projects. But when you design a policy, or even when you design a project, the most important thing is to identify what are the constraints to completing it. And after identifying the constraints, you go on to identify the constraints and removing the constraints. And once you do that, you open a whole process of discussion and debate. There are many examples of where we have followed this. Let's take the elevated transit or mass transit through the road. This is a certain process in road. Today it is a drain. The government it's not elevated anywhere at all. So this without this process, you don't identify the address clearly, and you don't identify the process of negotiation. So you can't succeed with the outcome and dealing with.
Hello? Hello?
मेरे ख्याल है कुछ इंटरनेट का मसला है.
अच्छा अच्छा. ठीक.
There is something which is going on.
So we have lost Maria?
I mean, there is a lot of acoustic problem.
Yes, there is.
We can't hear, you see, very clearly.
But sir, I can hear you very, I mean, it's very fine with me. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And reconsider and are we will have the green spaces are not particularly used, most of the time used for different kind of activity. Secondly, our schools do not have proper green spaces or play spaces. So now we will have to make our bylaws that all schools should be located near the open parks or those places where students can play in the morning. Those spaces can be used in the morning, and in the evening community can use it, because in the morning I have seen that gardens are not effectively used. The third is that wherever the mosques are to be constructed, they should have enough spaces, or there should be some spaces which can be converted into other kind of functions. For example, in Germany and other places, the shoe racks were transformed, converted into the ration bags and things, and people used to come and take those bags from there. And similarly, there should be some spaces where we can have some kind of doctors or some kind of health clinics could be established, so that people get these kind of, you see, because in the past, in the history, we have seen that every mosque had the clinic attached to it, right? So these are the kind of things that our buildings must be multifunctional, and they can be transformed to multifunctional activities. Yeah, this is extremely important. Now we come down to the, I mean, if we look into the architecture, I mean, over the years, we have, in the urban areas, we have done a lot of work. We have produced icons, but we haven't done work on the sustainable materials and
I would like to
sustainable
add one point to
technologies. We have not.
I would like to add one point to the mosque architecture. I mean, in the post-COVID area and during this pandemic, we have seen that people cannot, just stand for the prayer shoulder to shoulder, and they have to be like for ordinary. I mean, you have to have 2 feet, but in pandemic it was 6 feet. I mean, so one person is taking the place of three persons. So these buildings are, in a normal condition, you just need space for one three-person on a single space, and in such condition, I mean, you have to have that big spaces. So those big spaces could be multifunctional. At times, they can be converted into hospitals. They can serve as a food security points for, uh, for the welfare food distribution system and by the community or by the government or some organizations. And at the same time, these can be used for the civil defense purposes. I mean, you can engage youth and you can convert this space for training. Use this space for training sessions as well. I mean, normal classrooms or just physical training. I mean, the first aid training in the masjid, it can be just an integral part of it. How you, how you can tackle such situation. It can be a natural disaster. It can be an earthquake, or it can be just like such pandemic. And one important thing that is like in, I would like to quote an example. I live in Hyderabad. It's like almost 100,000 persons population, and it's a community of 10,000 houses. What we realized is that it has a tertiary care hospital, one of the major hospitals of the city, and there's no BHU. I don't know if in DHA Karachi or DHA maybe Lahore or somewhere else in Islamabad, there could be some basic health facilities all along the city. But in, in Shower, in our new cities even, we do not have any basic health facilities. So, they also need to be reviewed for more like, for more uh, local support, local health support. So the health system needs to be reviewed. Maria, you are back?
Yes, I'm back, and there was a very specific question for you, Mansoor. So there are asking how
Yeah.
to promote mosque function post-COVID.
Okay.
What role does mosque and madrasas must play now more so than ever after the COVID scenario?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. First of all, the anthropometrics of the mosque. Previously there used to be three persons and 6 feet or 5 feet area, and now, in the pandemic, people have to keep that social distancing. So, you need to have a larger spaces and larger open areas for the pandemic type of situation. So this is one new thing that in our lifetime we have learned, that malls and building that used to be very lavish and big just felt narrow rather than too big for us. Uh, in the post pandemic COVID-19 scenario, uh, what we are looking at, the mosque or any community building, especially for the mosque in our as a faith community, uh, we are looking at the mosque to serve as a food distribution or food security system part. It has to have that provision, and then the health security. Health facility has to be there. because I was just talking that in Hayatabad, which is around 10,000 houses population and 100,000 people, we have a tertiary care hospital, but we do not have any BHU in any of the phases, any of the sectors. So all the load is on the main tertiary care hospital. So our healthcare system has to be distributed, and our mosques can serve that purpose. That in case of lockdown, you have access to the medical facilities which are just near to at your neighborhood level. I mean, at a small community level. So that is the second part that we are looking at, and third is the civil defense. I mean, no civil defense department is looking for one individual from each house. They are just looking for people who are trained and working with them in such disaster situation, or to I mean to facilitate the public in case of such situations. And then mosque has to serve as a financial support model as well, because in the Islamic State you have that concept of the Baitul Mal, where all the resources of a neighborhood community come to the main masjid, and from there it is distributed. It can be just financial, it can be just clothes, it can be just shoes, food, it can be anything. I mean, so we need to cater for that as well. And youth is the main target, or the main source for such activities. So youth has to be engaged for social training and civil defense training. For some training areas need to be compulsion. I mean, compulsion has to be there to cater for such situation in future. Maria, back to you. Back to you, Maria. Hello.
She's not hearing.
Okay. So this is we since we have practically worked on a community model, and we have worked with the community, engaged the youth, and used the mosque for all these activities. And the results and the engagement of the community and the response is like, it's amazing. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Sure, definitely. I mean, the role of mosque has been crucial in the past, and it can play an important role in our recent times. I mean, if we look into the various examples in the United States and other places, there are three or four, you see, things which are placed. The mosque is playing as a role. The first thing is that it is being used as for the praying as well as for the educational purposes. The second is that it has also the community halls where the children can play, where they can have
Yes.
community functions. The third, the mosque has the role as a health center where the people needy, they who can't afford to pay for the medicine, they are given, you see. The third, fourth is that is also place where in times of need, food can be distributed to the needy people. And fourth is that with the local community help, the help can be extended to other peoples. So mosque has so many roles which the mosque can play. So I mean the problem is that there are two kind of problems. One is that we haven't made any kind of infrastructure
Yes.
bylaws or improved bylaws or guidelines for the architects, for the general in
Okay.
future. If you want to construct a mosque, you will have to provide these facilities and provisions, right?
Okay.
And the second is that architects will have to, you see, convince general public that these are now the needs of the time, and we will have to solve the community problems through the mosque with the help of the mosque and community. You see, other people with the help of people.
Rightly said so. I'm sorry, we
Exactly,
lost
sir.
some communication.
Yeah.
No, go
So,
ahead, Mansoor.
Maria, yeah. So we just had a detailed briefing on the role of mosque, and for example, in case of Peshawar, if I can give you some details, I mean we have 5,632 mosques in Peshawar, just in Peshawar. So if you just can have 10 volunteers in each mosque, it will be like 50,000 or 60,000 people in a city who can voluntarily have access to community at the grassroots level. And at the same time, the community or neighborhood have access to these vital nodes or community centers, mosque as a community center, as a vital community center. So this is such an integrated and accessible adaptable infrastructure that we need to take into consideration in our future planning and our existing built environment, because this is a vital organ of the society, especially in terms of social infrastructure, where people do have trust and they do come and they just obey. I mean, they have a respect for this institution. So, if we can capitalize on this institution, I mean, we can have a very good integrated, sustainable social infrastructure as well as physical infrastructure. They can serve as a starting point for the community development. I will place it this way.
Okay, so we are actually looking more towards inclusive development approach
To you, Maria.
with the community and, like you said, with the neighborhood. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, exactly. Integrated development. Yeah, developmental model.
Answer. Would you like to comment further on this? And when we are talking about inclusive architecture, and that is exactly how we had, I mean, certain typologies of our buildings were in that way, but how they have eroded, that structure has eroded from the society. Now we need to come back to the same methodology. And do you think it is really applicable and practical in the contemporary lifestyles that we are in? Okay. Have I lost you, sir? Or you guys have lost me?
No, I can hear. I can hear you.
Uh, Rahman, sir,
G.
did you get my question?
G.
I was asking you, does the inclusive model actually work more so in today's time after post COVID, wherein initially our societies were built in a certain modalities of inclusive structures and architecture, which we kind of lost in so many years and whatnot, and the
I,
society
I
going
mean,
western.
as we have already discussed that there are so many buildings, and even we can use them for the community development. For example, I mean, We have few libraries which are not being used effectively. The library can be used for different kind of awareness programs, for educating the people on different kind of issues. So this is extremely important because in most of the Western European or American cities, the library have certain halls where such kind of activities take place. The second is that schools could be used beside the mosque could be used particularly in the evening because our schools are not effectively used in the evening for the educating the uneducated people and the elderly people. So this is also important that these can be used by the government to you see educate people and to help people in improving the quality of education and education standards. Then there are, you see, the other kind of structures which can also be used, stadiums, for example, and these for the variety of activities, for as a camping grounds, as training, different kind of trainings and different kind of activities. So, I mean, these most of our buildings are underutilized and they are not effectively used for a variety of activities. So we must change our, you see, um perception that if there is a mosque, it can only use for prayer, and if there is a school, that is only going to be used in the morning hours because the educational buildings are always lively. They can be used day and night for a variety of activities. I mean, the our universities, for example, they. I give you example for the universities which are closed at about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, but most of the university remain open throughout the evening time and also up till 9, 10, 11 o'clock. And also students work day and night over there. So most what is being done in most of the developed countries are there must be short programs for improving the skills of the people in these universities. Short programs. For example, those people who are interested in AutoCAD and other kind of you see small programs or some kind of software learn these kind of extra program in the university in the evening time. Universities are not only for the degrees, but the university also offers small short programs for anyone who is interested. So, I mean, these these kind of institutions, buildings could be used for a variety of activities for improving the living condition,
So,
for improving the economic condition, to improve the social condition and social environment.
so our notions of adaptive reuse have also to be studied and reinvented. I agree
Yes,
with you on that. There are
yes,
many structures which are just lying vacant, underutilized, and not used. But that's another huge subject here to broach upon. I I mean, with so many issues that we have discussed, and like Arif Saab rightly says, that it's a wish list, and all of us are looking in this direction as to who actually makes that wish list comes true. We look towards the government looks towards the privatization modes to work on certain areas. So there's a vicious cycle in our communities and societies that goes on. But we have to take a stand and say that, okay, now let's do this the right way. Let's put everything on the table. make a modus operandi of taking this forward. Having said that, Arif Hassan Saab, how would you like to conclude that? I know the times are very uncertain, but what three things you would like to say that we should consider in the current scenario? What lessons we should have learned?
Would be my approximately 42 years, 43 years of work with communities. I have certain conclusions. Number one, we have been living through a period of immense physical and social distancing. And this physical and social distancing is so enormous, so big, that it has destroyed the structure of the family, it has destroyed global systems of self-governance. And in my opinion, we cannot go back to those systems of self-governance, and we cannot go back to those systems. Simply because going back to them would mean a complete restructuring of our society. That's number one. Number two, that also in this present COVID situation came about, relief could not be managed by the church or the system of the mosque, because the Karachi we are a multi. It was effectively managed by the Social Union Council. It has been my conviction, and I've seen this in Urangi. Again, Urangi is a small example. I've seen this in Urangi. That where Union Council is strong, work got done, and it got done to the council of power.
Charge karo.
I firmly believe political system in Pakistan and very strong of the political Union Council. And if that Union Council tells to the government of that area, then we will have a much better society and a better government and greater sense of belonging. And in the Union Council, we have schools, in the Union Council, we have mosques, in some Union Councils, we have churches. The Union Council Council and I glasses help in the shut up. It contains by some process of accountability and control. If the Union Council is there and it has a professional competent, integrate, and to deliver judgment, projects will be more realistic and their funding will be more. So that's all I can say.
Thank you, Arif Saab. Thank you, Abdul Rehman. Thank you, Mansoor. There have been serious technical glitches. I have kept a tab on the comments that are also coming up, and the questions are still coming up. But I will now close the session, and there are lessons learned both on the technical aspects and about what the community to say. So we will be back again very soon. So do keep posted on the adapk.com, and we will keep you posted on the coming editions of DYKYC or any other dialogue. Thank you so much to all our panelists, and thank you, Ramasa, for joining us so very early in the morning. Thank you to the audience who has joined us from various parts of the world. And thank you.
Thank you.
We sign off here.
Something.
Maria?
Maria,
Yes, sir.
here are the questions that the students have sent through.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes.
Would we like to know what they were saying, what they were asking?
Okay, I will. I think somebody is taking a note, and I will share that note with you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for helping us.
You are a John.